Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Boro Beginnings Overseas podcast mini-series. Now, in this episode, I'll be speaking to another Boro fan in Canada, Chris Sigurdson, about his Boro upbringing, which included a trip to the Riverside. So the first question really is a little bit about your background. You mentioned it there, but tell us where you're based.
Yes, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I was born and raised here. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. My parents were teachers. That led me to this. I'm an elected member of our local school board. So I'm a politician and a lawyer, so most people hate me, but and a Boro fan. But I'm Icelandic Canadian on my father's side and French Canadian on my mother's side. So I have no connection in that way to England or Teesside. I am a sports fan and I do love sports and I watch a lot of sports, but it's not, I didn't become a Boro fan because of pure joy of the sport or the pure joy of the team or anything like that. It's because it's a way of making a connection, and I became fascinated by the connection. Middlesbrough really connected with me as a club that I could support. I was fascinated by why people would support a club like that. Being from Winnipeg is a place that's it has a lot in common, even though it's prairie town. It's not industrial in that way in the ports and all that, but it has certain things in common with Middlesbrough, and that it's a post-industrial city, and it's seen hard times, and it was a very important city at one point, but it was surpassed by all the other places and larger cities in Canada, Vancouver, Toronto, and especially in Alberta with the oil boom, and Calgary and Edmonton became very wealthy and very large and got a lot of attention, whereas Winnipeg was always going down. Hockey's big here, but Canadian football is very much similar to soccer in that you get the loyalties to the clubs, and it's community owned. It's not they don't have a millionaire owner or whatever. It's very much based in the community. But our team had always been put down, and people would make fun of it. And we were champions once, and then we were bad for a long time. Just won the cup last year, first time in 20 odd years or whatever, 30 years. But we had been bad for a long time, but people stuck with it, and it's in your blood, and it's something it just seeps into the culture that people talk about it, you complain about it, you moan about it, you gripe about it. This year is going to be the year, and it's never the year. It's always a disappointment. And I felt a certain kinship with Middlesbrough for that, because that seems to be the same sort of dynamic. And I know I've talked about this with my brother-in-law, and he said, we went to a game, and somebody said, well, did you enjoy it? And he says, you don't enjoy it. That's not the point. He's like, and I went to the game, and everyone around me was muttering, and it was just, serious business. You can go to a baseball game or a hockey game here in Canada, and it's like everyone's having a beer and having a good time. And it's great if they win. It's not, but you don't have that same connection. Whereas with the Blue Bombers or Canadian football, you get that. You remember, memories of going to the games with my dad. We used to go to games together all the time, those sorts of memories. And I wanted to make that sort of same connection with Middlesbrough. That's decades ago now, and it's still stuck with me. Because we couldn't really watch the games because they're so far away and there wasn't internet, it was hard to pin on a certain player as opposed to the game itself, and you have to follow through news reports and that sort of thing. Now I can watch games online, and a lot of the games are on, not a lot, but you're lucky when they're on the cable sports channels. We get like 8 cable sports channels, so there's a lot of British soccer now, and occasionally you're lucky to get Boro.
Were there any players that helped attract you to the club then?
Juninho was one that was really stuck with me because I was early on, and I could see some clips, and I can really identify again with bringing it back to me, bringing it back to Winnipeg and Canada and why the connection is there. Again, with the Jets were a great team back in the day, but we were one of the first teams to bring in foreign players. We had a lot of Swedish players. We had Swedish stars, and the old guys really hated that. They would complain about that, and they would say, you need tough Canadian boys. You need, guys who learn to skate in a frozen pond. You don't need these guys who skate fancy like that. They're skating around. It's too fast. And so that was a great prevailing attitude. But we transcended that with the early Jets. And so I sort of got that with Janino, and then there was that same sort of thing was happening at that time in British soccer, where now there's a lot of foreign players, the same as the NHLs.
Can you remember the first game you watched then of Boro's?
Well, in person, I went about 7 or 8 years ago and went to Riverside with my brother-in-law, and it was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. They played Peterborough. I loved it, but it was everything that North American sports people would say is wrong. Like if you're going to go to one European soccer game, go to that one. It was a 0-0 draw. The stadium was half full. It was one of the down times. They weren't doing well, and it was very cold. And again, I'm from Winnipeg. I know cold, but it was like just that sort of wet, dreary cold.
Oh yeah.
And just a sort of a weird idea with no scoring and back and forth and everything. But I adored it. I thought it was fantastic. Just the experience of being there, I found it fascinating.
Yeah, I was just about to ask more of that experience at the Riverside, being a Canadian coming here. How was that game, the whole match day experience for you, compared to the hockey?
It's a lot different, but the same in many ways. That makes sense. That it's North American sport or hockey is much more commercialized, and there's loud music playing, and there's a lot of ads on the boards and all that sort of thing. And you don't get the chants. Like people who are chanting. You don't get that here. You do get, we have a lot of rituals of you yell certain things at certain times and stuff like that you have to be a regular fan to know. But there, I didn't know any of that stuff, so it was kind of fun to immerse myself in that. The seats aren't as comfortable.
Oh God, tell me about it. And they're all cold as well.
I really enjoyed 2015 or so when they went up.
2015, 16.
Yeah, and I followed that all through online, and you could see some of the games, and I really got into that, and I was tweeting it, and people thought I was crazy. And I had I had a Parmo.
Oh, you did? You had a Parmo.
Yeah,
did you like it?
I did. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, very good.
Nice.
But there was a comedian who was doing like YouTube songs and things about it. Was
it Neil Granger?
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was watching those over and over again, and I was just retweeting those, and I was and then I was emailing back and forth with my brother-in-law and my niece and my sister. And the whole experience of them actually doing something positive was fun to be a part of. But that was a lot of fun.
Just to finish off that, it's maybe a little bit of a difficult question, but what did Boro mean to you?
Well, it's like I said previously, in many ways, that it's family, and it's a connection with family overseas, and it's cultural connection of something that's different but similar to my own experiences. But most of the memories are tied up with just making connections, not the game itself. The game itself is important, but even if I don't see any of the games, just being involved in something and being that feeling of being a part of something that's different and unique. Yeah, just something unique, something interesting, something that has a personal connection that's stuck with me and withstood the passage of time.